That's my nan who passed away.
That's when we went line dancing and we found out that he passed away.
I went to a proper church with a proper burial that my nan had. I went through my nan's death.
It's easy to talk about your own death. It's harder to talk about other people.
I like to know so I could plan things. Once you are dead, you are dead. That's life.
This DVD was made as a result of research conducted by myself and Stuart Todd from Cardiff. It was funded by Bailey Thomas Charitable Trust. The people that you see on this video are actors. They are solely acting out the words that were made and collected by conversations with people with learning disabilities in North Staffordshire and Cardiff.
The two groups in Wales were groups I'd actually worked with previously in other different research studies. I actually found it very easy to find groups of people to talk to. They were more than willing to talk, and even though the subject matter I think was a bit daunting to the first people I spoke to in the groups, to the group as a whole they found it a very easy process and were quite willing to take part in the study. And the fact that of all the people who were asked to take part in the study, no one declined to take part. So it was quite a straightforward process.
Everyone will come to a dying phase in their lives, and even people with learning disabilities will die at some point. And we know that people who care for people with disability often struggle to cope with them at the end of life. This research was conducted to find out what people with learning disabilities actually knew, actually felt, and what their experiences were about loss, death and dying. Stuart and I conducted a series of focus groups in Cardiff and in Stoke-on-Trent. We held 2 groups in Stoke-on-Trent, 2 groups in Cardiff, and we met for 3 times each. There were 27 people who participated in this research, and we had conversations with them at various points about what their experiences were around loss, death and dying.
I find it quite surprising that people wanted to talk about death and dying in the groups that we took part in. And in fact, they talked about death and dying all the way back from childhood up into the current state, people that were important to them. And I think for some people who did talk, it was almost the first time in which they'd had a chance to tell the stories of how important particular losses were, talking about perhaps the memories of brothers who were long dead, and then they didn't have an opportunity to talk about it. So people wanted to talk about death as a way to talk about living relationships and relationships that were important to them.
Our previous experience has shown us that people with learning disabilities, if they're given the opportunity in a safe, comfortable environment, like and want to talk about issues like death and dying. And in our research we found that they wanted to talk about death in a very constructive way and welcomed the opportunities with limited awkwardness around their conversations.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. My breakfast is coming my way. My granddad always sings that song, even if it's Christmas, Easter, snowing, raining, even my birthday. My granddad used to work at Florence coal mine. He was a fireman. And he looked after everyone, who kept them safe. And he looked after me and kept me safe too. My granddad was a biggin, built like John Wayne. And every morning we have a cowboy breakfast, bacon, sausage and baked beans. And every morning we would say, get off your horse and get some milk. Cheers, Grandad.
Maureen Oswin reminded us of the importance of loss in the lives of people with learning disabilities, and we were struck by the number of losses that people with learning disability had experienced in the research that we undertook.
Why would you look at that? I just brought 2 beers, firewater. That's what my granddad used to call them. Oh well, I better drink them both. It's been 6 months since my granddad died, and I kept bringing him 2 beers. This was his favourite place. And it was my favourite too. At the funeral, all of Granddad's friends were dressed up with cowboy outfits. And he didn't want to wear black. He wanted us to wear red, because that was his favourite colour, and so was mine.
During our research, many people with learning disabilities told us that they weren't afraid to contemplate the death of themselves or their friends and family around them. One chap told us that when he visited his mother's plot in the cemetery, he found it really comforting that the plot next to hers would be for him after he had died. I asked him how he felt about this. He said he found it really comforting. None of the carers who supported this gentleman knew that the plot had been bought for him. It was only during the research that he actually talked about this.
If I was in heaven with my mum, there would be a little town with cafes, and which you don't need to pay money, and they will be free.
Spirituality was important to many people during the research, and it wasn't just centred around religion. One woman told how, after the death of her mother, she still felt a presence around the flat at certain key times during the week, usually when her favourite soap opera was on the television. She said she'd look around expecting to see Mum to be sitting on the settee next to her.
I'm sitting here waiting for my taxi. It's usually me and my mum who's sitting here waiting for my taxi. She usually stops off at the flower shop. I always say, "See you later, alligator." She says, "In a while, crocodile." And I go the rest of the way off to college. Oh, there's a taxi. Come on, Mum.
In our research, some of the people seem to be involved in bereavement, but few are involved in the dying part. It seems like there's a hidden face of dying. People are often excluded from the last few days, last few hours, and the last few minutes of the people they care for and the people they loved.
My mum told me cats have 9 lives. I wish my mum had 9 lives. I miss her now. Nobody seemed to speak about her. It's like it's a big dark secret.
Doing the study with people with learning disabilities gave me an opportunity to remind myself about the importance of having an opportunity to talk about death. It's often said that death is around us, is all around us. Death is behind us as children, and as we grow older, death is in front of us. Giving people an opportunity to talk about those experiences is extremely important, and the research that we have done was part of that process.
All of our conversations throughout this research has reminded us of the need to talk to people with learning disabilities about loss, death and dying. It may be sensitive, it may be difficult, but this research has shown that it can be done and needs to be done.
I never got to say goodnight to my granddad. I wonder if Dad with his boots on. I know he's up there. He's looking down at me as we speak. Good night, Grandad.
Your body turns into a skeleton but you still have a soul, so you have to enjoy life as it comes.
I don't think I'm frightened, but it helps if I talk about it.
When I die, I know I'm going to be with people I love.